Welcome to week 4 of the Boost Your Happiness Challenge. Today, we're going to continue unpacking the PERMA model with the R, which stands for relationships, and more specifically, positive relationships. When you took the PERMA test in our day 1 video, how did you do on this dimension? And how did you do on the bonus score for loneliness? These will tell you just how much you need to focus on this building block of happiness. Now, relationships in the PERMA model includes all of the relationships that you have, from your boss to your clients, your best friends to acquaintances, your romantic partner to your children, your neighbors to your extended family. They all have an impact on your happiness. We are, after all, social beings. We have an innate drive to connect that is critical to our survival. Now, for the purposes of this challenge and to make this manageable, I'm going to focus on our female friendships. You can always come back to this week's exercise later with an eye toward an intimate partner or a family member. If your loneliness score was high, please pay special attention to what I'm going to say. You are not the only one. Loneliness has taken on epidemic proportions, both in the US and abroad. A recent study has found that a staggering 47% of Americans often feel alone. According to former Surgeon General Vivek Murthy, among others, this poses a significant health threat. Loneliness has been estimated to shorten a person's life by 15 years, equivalent in impact to being obese or smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Now, why is that? Biologists have shown that feelings of loneliness trigger the release of stress hormones that in turn are associated with higher blood pressure, decreased resistance to infection, and increased risk of cardiovascular disease and cancer. There's even evidence that this perceived sense of social isolation accelerates cognitive and functional decline and can serve as a preclinical sign for Alzheimer's disease. Now, it's not about having a ton of friends. Several studies validate that it's much better for your health and happiness to have a few very good friends you can count on than to have a vast network of more distant acquaintances. But what do we mean by good friends? The key here is to focus on positive relationships. Extensive research demonstrates those are the ones that will have the most impact on our level of happiness. Okay, but what does it mean to have a positive relationship? Let's go through qualities to look for in our friendships. Trust, dependability, and forgiveness. I trust her to be loyal to me, to keep my confidences, and never to gossip about me. I feel safe with her. She follows through on her commitments and will be there for me in a pinch. She doesn't hold grudges and is eager to clear the air and repair any breaches in our relationship. I can be myself around her without fear of judgment because I know she sees the best in me despite my shortcomings. She accepts me as I am. She values our differences because she understands that's what makes each of us unique. She's honest with me and will tell me the hard truth when I need to hear it and challenge me when I'm out of bounds. Interest, enjoyment, and reciprocity. She wants to hear what I have to say, listens deeply, and asks questions. We enjoy each other's company and have at least some shared interests. We both contribute to maintaining our relationship, even if at times we take turns taking the lead, and we both make an effort to reach out to each other regularly, and not only when we need something. Generosity, respect, and caring. She invests in our friendship. She's generous with her affection, time, talents, and resources. She respects me and my opinions, even if at times we agree to disagree. She believes in me and wants the best for me. She cheers me on when I'm doing well, empathizes with me when I'm in pain. Now, keep in mind, these are the qualities of a good friendship that I came up with. I've summarized them here. This list is exhaustive, and if someone ticks all the boxes, that's pretty impressive, but not necessarily realistic. You could have a good friend who always shows up a little late, but you're willing to live with that annoyance. Or one of your close friends may not be as good about reaching out to you, but you don't mind. To begin this week's assignment, I'd like you to make your own list of friendship qualities that matter most to you. Feel free to use this list as a place to start, but please remove the qualities you don't value and add the ones that are missing for you. Make this list reflect your values and priorities. After all, it's about your friendships. Write your list in the follow-along guide provided for this course. The next step is to make a list of all your friendships, including acquaintances. Here are some suggestions to get you started. Friends you made growing up, friends you made in school or college, work relationships, maybe your bosses, clients, as well as colleagues, mentors, coaches, activity relationships, for example, a woman you always chat with after yoga or a person you often see when you volunteer at the homeless shelter. Community relationships, for example, your neighbors, other members of your church or temple, and even local people you interact with regularly, like the server at your favorite cafe. Friends through the kids, the parents you got to know because your kids were friends. Write down as many people as possible. For now, the more the better. Again, write this list in the follow-along guide. Next, I'm going to ask you to evaluate each of your friendships. Here's a summary of the types of friendships and the list of qualities I identified, but of course, you'll be using your own two lists, and you may have a different list of qualities to apply. Look at each person you wrote down on your friendships list and evaluate her against a list of qualities you determined were most important to you. How does each person measure up? Rate each person on the list you made in your follow-along guide by giving her a grade. I mean it. Is she an A relationship or a B or a C or maybe even an F? For some, you may not know her well enough to determine this. That's okay. Simply put a question mark by her name. Now that you've evaluated each of your friendships against the criteria you determined were most important to you in a friendship, I'm going to ask you to sort them into buckets. Here's an example of how you might do this, but feel free to tailor these buckets to your needs. Solid is where you'd put your A friends, maybe your B+. These are your deepest, most meaningful friendships. Okay is where you'd put your B friends, maybe your C2. These women are ones you don't see much potential with. They're not great, but they're not hugely detrimental to your day-to-day life either. They just are. Poor is where you'd put the women who do not measure up as friends, and you don't see that changing. You might find them boring or negative, superficial or rude. At worst, they're the toxic people in your life. The ones who've hurt you, betrayed you, dropped the ball time and again. Potential is where you'd put the women you don't know well enough to assess, but they intrigue you and you're curious to see if there's a potential friendship there. Use the space provided in the follow-along guide to triage your friendships. Now that you have a clear picture of your friendships and how they fare on your criteria, it's time to take action in the service of boosting your happiness. Here's what I suggest. Focus on your solid friendships. Nurture them as much as possible. These are the relationships that have the biggest positive impact on your happiness. I can't emphasize this enough. These are the women you will want to pour all your love and energy into. They provide you safety and love. They are your people. Now, if you find yourself disappointed in the number of women in the solid camp, if you're yearning for a few deeper friendships, now is the time to explore potential ones. Who is one person you can reach out to today to make plans with? For the friendships you said were just okay, you'll need to decide how you wish to proceed. You may choose to do the bare minimum to maintain the relationship on a cordial footing, or you may choose to ignore them. They are not worth your precious time. And finally, for a poor or toxic relationship, I suggest you don't waste any energy on her. Make the conscious decision to create distance between the two of you. Now, let's not forget, friendships are co-created. So I will also challenge you to ask yourself how you rate on the friendship qualities you listed. How good a friend are you? Are there areas where you could improve to become a better friend? Something for you to keep in mind as you seek to deepen your relationships. What did you discover? What friendships do you wish to focus on? Which you need to distance yourself from? How can you be a better friend yourself? Make sure to commit to next steps using the follow-along guide. And when you're ready, move on to our Week 5 video, where we'll explore the M in the PERMA model, meaning. Until then, let's lean into our most supportive friendships.